Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Beskar Bucket. Happy 2024, and more importantly, happy Star Wars Podcast Day 2024. Yes, that is right. It is once again another Star Wars Podcast Day, and real quick, just wanted to mention, because it is Star Wars Podcast Day, give you a little bit of history. This is the 25th anniversary of Star Wars Podcast Day. The first show, Jedi Talk, premiered in 1999, so that makes this the 25th anniversary. So, welcome back. I wanted today to be a solo episode, just because I wanted you to get to know me a little bit better. You know, I know we've done quite a few episodes here, but I haven't done a solo episode where I just, kind of talk about myself, and the topic for today is why Star Wars? And when I say why Star Wars, I mean, why is this franchise something that I have tattooed on my body, takes up 90% of my wardrobe, spend most of my time thinking about Star Wars, why most of my hobbies involve Star Wars. So I wanted to just kind of dive a little bit into that, because, Star Wars has been the most important part of my life since I was 3 or 4 years old. The timeline gets a little foggy around there, but it's one of those franchises that it just always stuck with me. And I know I've told this story publicly before, but I don't know if I've said it on here or not. But I am very fortunate that I can still remember to this day very vividly when I was first introduced to Star Wars. It was, a day after school. My grandparents were watching me. I, again, was about 3 or 4 years old. Just flipping through channels, and I just happened to see this movie called The Empire Strikes Back. Didn't think much of it. I was a toddler. But, I just threw it on, and the first scene that I ever saw was Luke versus Vader in the carbon freezing chamber. And it was exactly when Luke was up in the rafters of the freezing chamber and Vader had cut the exhaust pipe, and Luke turned around and sprayed it back in his face. I don't know why that image is just ingrained in my brain. But that then turned into, I was sitting there with my grandma, and she was like, "Oh, you're watching Star Wars, your dad loves this stuff." So, we sat there and we finished the movie, and she was like, "I have so much of your dad's old stuff." So she brought out a box of toys, sheets, just little knickknacks and trinkets from Star Wars. And, I was 3 or 4 years old, so I was enamored with all this. It was like, wow, this movie's really cool. And, it was one of those things where it was just from that moment on, I have loved every second of Star Wars. Like I said, it's tattooed on my body. I've got 20-some tattoos from Star Wars. It's one of those franchises that you just see it and that, like, oh yeah, this is going to be my defining character trait now. But yeah, I love Star Wars. It's given me so many great memories, so many great friendships, opportunities, and it's one of those things where it's arguably one of the most important parts of my life, because of, not just because it's a movie, because yeah, movies are great, and we can all love movies, but it's the people around me and the things that I've done and the memories that I've shared that make it truly special. Because for the first, I don't know, we'll call it 17 years where I was, really into Star Wars, I didn't really have anyone to share that with other than my dad and my grandmother until she passed away. So it was one of those things where it's like, I like Star Wars, but not that much. When secretly I was like, oh my god, I love this so much. I want this to be my entire life. And then when I had met Mike Hinton of Karita Cast and the Inflatable Falcon, it just kind of like I was like, oh my god, there are more people out there that love Star Wars just as much as I do, if not more. And, from we talk about this all the time. We're the kind of people that when someone says, oh yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan, someone else will chime and be like, nah, that guy right there, he's a real Star Wars fan. He knows more about Star Wars than anybody I know. And, you know, for the longest time, that used to be just super embarrassing for me. But, you know, growing up and maturing, it's like, no, that's who I am. I'm the Star Wars guy. But, you know, for not having anybody for so long, and then now finally in the last few years having more friends that I consider to be like family, that have this appreciation for this franchise that I have always loved more than anything else. It's nice to just have that and those connections and just have all these people that I can talk to about Star Wars. Because growing up, you know, going through middle school and high school, it was like, yeah, I like Star Wars. Everyone knew I liked Star Wars, but not to the extent that I actually did. So from the time that I was like 12 to like 17, I kind of faded out. Like I didn't talk about it as much. I didn't watch it as much. But like I still, in the back of my mind, like I knew, like this is my franchise. This is what I've hitched my wagon to. And just having, and I feel like now as an adult, I feel like the fact that I buried that down, that's more embarrassing than being this hyper nerd mega Star Wars fan. And it just, I don't know. It makes me happy that that I'm sitting here in 2024, a full-grown adult, making a podcast. I sit down every single Wednesday to do the Inflatable Falcon with Mike and Ken, and to be in the 501st and to have all these great friends and do these great events based around Star Wars. It's very fulfilling for me at this age to be in these positions. But something I really wanted to touch on, and I've got a list of bullet points here, and then I've got a couple other things that I'll get into, but the biggest thing for me, I think, that is the most important part of Star Wars to me is the fact that it's something that I share with my dad. And I know some people aren't fortunate enough like I am to have such a great relationship with their father, but you know, it's one of the few things that keep me going every day. Is I know at the end of the day I can still talk to my dad, and you know, we can just bullshit about, you know, we're big Cleveland Browns fans. So if anyone's a football fan, I'm sorry, I'm a Browns fan. It is what it is. Anyway, not the point. But we can bullshit about the Browns or Star Wars or anything else. You know, we have so many similar interests that, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, I know I can always talk to him. I know I can always call my dad and be like, hey, what did you think about this? What did you think about that? But yeah, it's nice to have that connection with him. And especially now, being, you know, that we're both adults and, you know, we can have a civilized conversation about this thing and have, you know, real conversations about it. Not like, oh yeah, no, I liked that movie. It was cool. I like laser swords. It's like, but to get to talk about the nuances and all the in-depth stuff, that's what really that's what one of the more things I appreciate the most is to be able to have those conversations. And not only that, but to have both of us be in the 501st. And I've always liked, you know, cosplay, costuming, stuff like that. But the fact that I was able to get him to join, and now that he has 2 different costumes that he likes, and that he wants more costumes, it's so gratifying to be able to go out and troop with him and to share these memories with him. You know, those are things that I'm going to think about, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, is be like, wow, you know, that event that we did, that was really special. That was really something. But, and you know, not only like the costuming stuff, like we also were collectors. So we, you know, whenever there's a new Star Wars toy that comes out, like for instance, the Mandalorian, the N1 Starfighter, you know, to see the vintage collection and just both of us be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's just, it's one of those things where I love it. It makes me happy. Every single time I think of something Star Wars, he's always one of the first people I'm like, hey, did you see this? and it's really special to be able to share that with him. But even going a little bit back, like Star Wars was something that I shared with my grandmother as well. And another vivid memory I have of, everyone who knows me knows that Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie. And you can call it nostalgia, you can call it what it is. It's my all-time, hands down favorite movie ever. But part of that is I can still remember to this day, almost 20 years later, sitting in the back row at a midnight screening of Revenge of the Sith with my dad and my grandma, and both of them being like, well, he's not going to stay up through all this. And then them with the look on their face afterwards when they see that I made it through the entire movie. And it's something that the three of us loved. And for this episode, I didn't want to just sit here and ramble about my experience with Star Wars. So I reached out to a few friends, and I reached out to my dad to see if I could get them to give me a little blurb as to why Star Wars is so important to them. And this is what my dad had to say. And I'm going to read these quotes directly. But he said, "It was the first movie that I can remember my mom taking me to see at 9 years old. Just her and I in a somewhat empty theater, which led to a lifetime of bonding between us. That fantasy world allowed us both, maybe me even more, to escape the reality of our lives. It also allowed me to have a bond with my son in a way I never thought possible." So it's something that has created this fabric that has built our relationships with each other. And you don't get that with a lot of things in life. You don't get, these fictional stories that have that ability to create such a lasting connection. And I don't take that for granted. My grandmother is, when I think about her, I think nothing but, kindness and fond memories, and Star Wars is always there with that. So it's one of those things where I'm very appreciative that I was just so happened to be flipping channels and ended up landing on The Empire Strikes Back, because it strengthened my relationship with my grandmother, and it certainly has built an incredible relationship with my dad that I would not trade for the world. But the other part of that is it led me to the 501st. Like I said, I always loved costuming, and I always loved, dressing up and making props and costumes and stuff like that. But, I didn't think when I was even considering joining that it would be basically all I do in my free time. So when I have a free moment, I check and I look on our calendar, see, okay, do we have any troops that day that I could maybe swing by? And, seeing the look on the faces of these families that we troop for is arguably one of the most fulfilling things that I can imagine. Because I know Mike has said it plenty of times, there are families out there that can't make it to Disney, though they can't make it even to the movies to see these characters on the big screen. And seeing their faces when they see a stormtrooper or Darth Vader or an X-Wing pilot or Kylo Ren or General Veers or Director Krennic, it is so morally gratifying to see their reactions of just pure joy and happiness, that it's like, oh my god, I love these characters. I can't believe I'm seeing them in person. And to even go one step further, I trooped the Erie Otters game last Saturday, and there was a group of kids that they were asking all of us for our autograph. So being able to stand there and just sign Kylo Ren on their little posters, that the little handout posters, was just, I welled up a little bit under the mask, because for me, yeah, I'm signing some fictional character's name, whatever. But to them, oh my god, I got Kylo Ren's autograph. Oh my god, I got Darth Vader's autograph. Those are memories those kids and those families will take for the rest of their lives. And, some of them might forget about it the next day. And that's okay. But I know for those who seriously appreciate the fact that we were there, and, we made their day, we signed their little posters, even though, we're not even the real actors, we're just people in costumes. It's so... It warms my heart thinking about what we can do for those people who aren't as fortunate as the rest of us, we can give them those memories. And on top of that, personally, I have so many incredible friends that I have built lasting, lifelong relationships with that I never thought would have been possible. Because again, going back to that 16-year-old me that was embarrassed to like Star Wars, and be this mega nerd, to now, pretty much the only people I talk to are Star Wars fans, or people that I've met through or because of Star Wars. And I wouldn't trade any of them for the world. I love them to death. They're my favorite people, and I'm so glad to have met them and to make their friendship. And it's so hard to put into words how much all of them mean to me. When I've been in places in my life where I've just been incredibly low, to be able to just send any of them a message and be like, hey, what are you doing next Friday? Let's play video games. Let's go to dinner. Let's do this. Let's do that. And just to have those friendships because of Star Wars is just incredible. I will say, I reached out to my dad and a couple of friends. And throughout this episode, I'm going to read a couple of them off. Because I want, like I said, I don't want it to just be my story. Because Star Wars is never about one person. It's about the galaxy as a whole. Star Wars has always been about family, and these people are like family to me. And I want their stories to be out there too. So I'm not going to name any names, that other than my dad, because I know he doesn't care. But I'll read a couple of these. The first one, to say the least, it's made a big impact on my life. It's allowed me to embrace my love and passion for this franchise that's given me so many fond memories and let me be me. It's allowed me to go above and beyond and get involved in cosplay and prop building, which I love to death. And it's granted me even more friends that bond over this fandom with me and do some really cool things. Star Wars has given me so much, to say the absolute least. Now, I think there's one key detail in there that is very important. Star Wars has let me be me. Star Wars should always and forever be about, no matter anything, you are you and you're important in this galaxy. Star Wars has always been about inclusivity, equality, all of that. And it's very nice to see at least in the 501st. Doesn't matter if you don't look, because I'm 5'9". Kylo Ren shouldn't be less than 6 foot, but nobody cares. You can be a 7 foot tall Jawa, or you can be a 4 foot tall Vader. It doesn't matter. You be you. And it's nice to see. I'm at a loss for words. I didn't really have much of a plan going into this, and I just kind of wanted to speak from the heart. So I'm sorry if I'm a little out there tonight. I think it just goes to show that Star Wars is important to me. I'm at a loss for words to some of these, because I to be truthful with you, I didn't read through these very much. I glanced over them to make sure everything was copacetic and coherent. But I wanted to kind of read these in the moment and be with these people that I love and care for so much, just to in real time be able to react to what they say. But I'll read another one real fast. What makes Star Wars so special to me Star Wars for me is about not only awesome planets and gadgets and troopers and vehicles, it's also about family, community, and imagination. It gives me an amazing and boundless place to express myself both creatively and personally with fellow fans I'm proud to call some of my closest friends. It allows me to forget my own troubles and immerse myself in the conflict of the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War and beyond, constantly evolving and expanding with amazing shows, games, books, and more. And that's the great thing about Star Wars, is there is so much content to consume. Whether you like movies, shows, books, comics, video games, audio dramas, music, there's something for everybody. Even now, like you see Star Wars Visions. You know, if you're a fan of anime or just different forms of animation and you want these non-canonical, beautiful stories that you can go watch those. If you like, you know, The Mandalorian or the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, or you're a fan of like the Vader comics or the Thrawn books or anything. There is so much in Star Wars that you can lose yourself in and forget about the outside world and not have to worry about what's going on at work or what's going on at school or the drama that's going on in the house or anything like that. Star Wars will always be there to get you away from that and to forget about the things that you have going on in life. It will always be there for you, no matter what. But let's get into another one. What Star Wars means to me is inclusivity. It brings people together, multiple generations regardless of background. The enjoyment is for anyone who is willing to watch. There is representation for all, especially in the sequel trilogy, with a black stormtrooper or a Hispanic pilot or a scrappy female lead. Star Wars is for everybody. And I touched on that a little bit earlier. But it's nice to see that you can be yourself and not have to worry about what you look like or how you sound or how you walk or how you talk. Star Wars forever will be for everybody as well. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter where you come from, Star Wars will always be such an inclusive place. And that is probably the most important broad thing about Star Wars is it doesn't matter. Star Wars is there for you. And I think that should be the kind of big thread that you pull from this is no matter what, Star Wars will be there and Star Wars is for everybody. I know I can get a little gatekeepy, but that's only for the people who don't appreciate it. The people who take it for granted. And you know, I've said it many times that Star Wars is my passion. I love this franchise with every fiber of my being. I know there are things that I don't like. There are parts of Star Wars that, it's not my cup of tea. But guess what? That's someone else's cup of tea. Someone else likes that. And you know, if you don't like The Last Jedi, that's okay. It's not made for you. It was not made specifically for you, and that's okay. You know, I personally still, for more recency, I don't care for the first 4 episodes of Ahsoka. It is what it is. I like the last 4. I like a lot of the other stuff. There are parts of the first 4 episodes that I like. That's okay. I don't stand up here and grandstand, the first 4 episodes of Ahsoka were terrible. I like the last 5. Wow, you know that Clone Wars episode with all the flashbacks? Ugh! Grand Admiral Thrawn's entrance was amazing. Seeing Ezra back building his lightsaber with Huyang. That's amazing. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about like, wow, you know, the pacing on the first 4 episodes was kind of rough. And you know, they did this and I didn't like that. You don't have to sit there and tell me what you don't like. I want to hear what you did like. You know, I want everyone to find what they love in Star Wars and sit there and preach on that. Don't tell me what you didn't like. Don't spread negativity. We already have enough negative fans in this fandom. Be the change. Be the person who's going to include everybody. Not because of what you dislike, but because of what everyone likes or what somebody else likes. Be more open and understanding. There are so many different stories in this universe. You're not going to like every single one of them. I always tell people, I love Star Wars. Doesn't mean I like everything in it, but I love Star Wars as a whole. All Star Wars is good Star Wars. No matter what, I will always die on that hill. It's all good because it's Star Wars. It might not be better than something else, but I know that I will choose Star Wars 10 times out of 10 over something else because of all of the great memories, friendships, relationships that I've built on this franchise. I got one more, then I'll start to wrap this up. It's a little bit of a shorter episode, just because I wanted this to be more of an introduction. Because I know there are a lot of new people listening for Star Wars Podcast Day, so I kind of wanted to shorten it up a little bit, make it a little more palatable. That way you can get to know me, get to know why I love this franchise, why I do what I do. So I didn't want to go too long. I didn't want to go too short, but let's get into this last one, and then we'll start wrapping things up, and we'll get you on your way. The last one here, I love it because it's a unique, lived-in universe where the magic of interstellar travel and space wizards can live alongside a reality where a guy needs to shovel bantha shit, farm water, and eat and earn enough credits for blue milk. It's weird, bizarre, and easy to sink your teeth into. And I think that is the best possible way we can wrap up these little quotes here. Because, like I just got done saying, there's something for everybody. There is something to sink your teeth into, no matter what. Because if you like the political intrigue, you can watch Andor. You can watch the prequels with all the underdealings. If you like just wild space adventures, you can go watch The Mandalorian. If you like the original trilogy, you can go watch the original trilogy. If you want something that's a little cleaner, a little more polished, a little more modern, you've got the sequel trilogy. They tell great stories with a modern twist. Where, the prequel trilogy, it's got that rough-ish looking, but still clean and polished, more rough computer generation. But then you've got the original trilogy. You've got that really gritty, rough film, the film grain in it. There's something to love in all of it. Be that a moisture farmer or a space wizard, there's always going to be something to find that you'll love in Star Wars. And there's always something to relate to. That goes back to the inclusivity portion of it. There's always going to be a character that you can connect to, no matter what. But I'll hop off my high horse. I'll let my blood pressure come down a little bit. Thank you guys so much for listening, and happy Star Wars Podcast Day. Happy 25th anniversary. I'm so glad that I was able to sit here and talk to you guys for a half hour about why this franchise means so much to me, and why I love every second that I get to spend being in this universe and being involved in all the different stuff that makes Star Wars so great to me. And I'm glad I was able to share these stories of why some of these people that I consider family, why Star Wars is important to them as well. Because, yeah, I can sit here and tell you all the livelong day why I love it. Me. That's never what Star Wars has been about. It's always been about family. And it's always been about the people around you. Be that your found family, your blood family, whatever kind of group of people that you consider to be the closest, tight-knit people in your life. That's what it's about. That's why Star Wars is so important to me. Because it brings people together. And it should never drive anyone apart. No matter what you don't like, matter what you do like, it should bring people together. I think that's what George Lucas has always intended from the very beginning, is you want to bring people closer together. Be that a band of rebels or a battalion of stormtroopers. All you want to do is just bring people together, make people happy, and have good memories. Thank you guys so much for sitting here and listening to me ramble for a while. I'll catch you guys next time here at the Beskar Bucket. Have a good one.